Hi, this is Lori, and welcome to my series on the Pico W. This will be the second part of our passive Buzzer Jukebox project. In this episode, we're going to add in the OLED screen and some buttons so that we can create a menu system to select songs for our jukebox. Let's get going. Here's the circuit we'll use for this part of the project. From part 1, we had our Pico and our passive buzzer on the circuit. We're going to add to that the OLED screen 1306 and 3 buttons. The buttons will control the highlight of the menu as we have our list of songs. All the songs won't fit on the LED screen, so we'll use the up and down arrows to move up and down among the selections. And then when we press the select button, that will make that particular song play. Well, I thought putting together a menu system on the SSD 1306 type display was going to be pretty easy, but as I started to think about how I wanted this menu system to work, and the fact that I knew not all the songs would fit on the screen at the same time. In other words, I'd have to move up and down through my menu choices and scroll them on and off the screen. That became a little bit more challenging. Luckily, I found that Kevin McClear, one of my favorite YouTubers, had already done a project where he created a menu system for a rotary encoder. And I was able to use his code to get the right idea of how to do this. So I did adapt his code a little bit because I wanted to use 3 buttons rather than a rotary encoder. It will take a little bit of time to explain this, and it may be that if you're going to work through this and use it, you may have to just spend some time really working through the code. And I actually did some things on paper until I was sure I understood how this system was working and how to modify it to do what I wanted to do in this project. In Kevin's system, he has a window that's showing on the screen at the time, and he calls that the short list. And then we have the menu list here, which is the list of all the items in the menu system. And we keep track of how far shifted down we are from the start of the menu list. And then we'll also keep track of which one of the items is currently highlighted, and that'll be the highlight variable. If we have the shift and the highlight, then we'll know which index by using this equation down here, that menu position, which tells us which index, is the highlight minus 1 plus the shift. So for this one, the highlight is 2, and we're shifted 2. So 2 minus 1 plus 2 gives us 3. So that gives us the correct index and tells us this is the one we should play if we were to hit the select button while Star Trek was highlighted. That's the gist of how this menu system works. Let's go take a look at the code. Now we've got Thonny and we have our actual project available to us. So we'll see that here's our Pico, our buzzer, our 3 buttons, down, up, and select. And here's our OLED screen, all connected up into the proper places, and we've learned how to use all of these in previous episodes in my Pico W series. So now we're kind of just putting things together to get different kinds of projects. Let's review the code. From last time, you'll remember that we put all our songs in a separate file called songs.py, and we have that on our Pico. I also took all the functions that we use to play songs and put them also into a file. So our tone function, our rest function, our play song function, and our notes dictionary from part 1 are now inside songplayer.py. Now it's time to take a look at the main part of the program for our jukebox. Here's the link to Kevin's code that uses a rotary encoder to create the menu, in case you want to take a look at how that worked. We'll import the needed modules, and the new one that we'll import is the sys module, which will allow us to do an exit from our menu. So that's new there. Importing our songs and our song player, then setting up our OLED screen, and setting up the buzzer. And now we have our buttons, which we'll use pull down resistors for, so the down, the up, and the select button. And with those buttons, we're going to use interrupt functions and requests to use the buttons and detect when they've been pressed. That'll allow us to nicely debounce those buttons. And all we'll pass back in each of the handlers is that the down, up, or select button has been pressed, and that it isn't just random noise. It's been debounced here using the interrupt functions for each of the buttons. Next up is the interrupt request. So this is where we kind of initialize those interrupt functions to be in place. They'll be triggered by pressing the button, and as it rises to a 1, that'll call the button handler for each of them, the down, the up, and the select. If you haven't seen how to do interrupt functions, I'll link the episodes where I discuss it in detail. Next will be the menu system variables. Now I'm only going to be using that blue portion of the LED, so it's only 48 pixels high, even though it covers the whole range. And it kind of goes from 016 to 2763 when you address pixels individually. Then these are some of the variables that are needed for the menu system, kind of initializing them. And this one's important. Total lines, that's how many lines I want to appear on the screen at the same time. And you saw in my previous slide that I had 4 lines or 4 choices showing. Here's our menu list with our 7 songs and the quit. And next we're going to come into the function that Kevin put together to show the menu. In this one, we'll make sure those line and highlight and shift are all available globally. We'll initialize item to 1 and line to 1. And then here's a place where I made some changes. I wanted to make sure that each line was 12 pixels high. And then when I put the text inside, they're 8 by 8 pixels. So that gives me kind of a 2 pixel border on the top and the bottom. So that was kind of what I wanted it to look like. We're going to clear that blue portion of the screen, so we're going to just fill a rectangle here, starting at that 016 where the blue part of the display starts. Then we're going to get the length of the menu. We're going to set up the short list, so it's keeping track of the shift outside of this function, and it's going to see what part of the menu is on the screen, or that's going to put that part of the menu on a screen, I should say. And then here's where we're going to kind of loop through and create our highlight for the selected one, and where we're just going to put the text on for the ones that aren't selected. So when the highlight equals the line as it's looping through the list here, then it'll go ahead and put sort of that filled rectangle to kind of put it in relief or opposite. And then when it's not highlighted, it'll be the item just as text. All right, so we're out of that function. And now I'm just initializing, putting the Buzzer Jukebox at the top in the yellow area, along with a couple of lines just to make it kind of stand out. Putting that on the screen, and then showing the first view of the menu. And I did some printing here so you can see where we are. So these we'll want to comment out once you start making this for regular use. But as you're learning how this highlight and shift and menu system works, I found printing out those variables as we go very helpful to see what's changing as you move around. Then in our while true loop, we'll track whether the down button's been pressed, and we'll adjust things here. We'll shift the highlight unless we've gotten to the total number of lines, and otherwise we'll shift the whole menu down. And we'll go ahead and show that. And I'm printing again some stuff here so we can see when the down button was pressed and what was the highlight and shift at that time. Same thing for the up button. Again, checking to see where the highlight is and seeing whether we need to do a shift or not. And then also printing some of those things out so we can see where the highlight and shift are. And then if we have the select button pressed, then we need to determine where are we highlighted, what song is currently highlighted using the highlight and shift variables. And then it's going to play the proper song, or it's going to quit, which is we'll clear the screen and then we'll do a sys.exit to clear and exit the program. So that's the code. It gets a bit complicated, doesn't it? But I think it's time to go ahead and run this one. Let's go ahead and run it, and hopefully we see our our screen. We've got our list, and I'm going to go ahead and press the let me do it this way so you can see. Press the down, and there's a Take Me On, Game of Thrones, Star Trek. Yeah, it's moving through them all, and we should get to quit. And notice if I keep pressing, it doesn't go anywhere. And if you've been looking at the screen as I was pressing, you'll see where the highlight is and how far shifted we are for the menu. You can see that eventually maxes out at 4. And then if we go back the other way, you can see our shift is now getting to 3. And let's play Star Trek. So let's press the select. Oh, that's a nice short one. Now you'll see in the song player I still have the printing of the note and the duration, so we can see that. Again, another thing that maybe you'll want to comment out later on. Let's go back up again and let's play Take Me On, and that's highlight is 1 and shift is 1, and that's correct because we're not at the top yet. Let's play that one. Excellent. Now we'll go down and let's exit. And we came out of the program, and our OLED is blank, so it all works. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Definitely took some programming prowess and some help from YouTube friends, but I hope you enjoyed the Jukebox project. See you again next time.